Hey everyone, I am Michael. This is a double review for Sammy Keyes number 6, Sammy Keyes and the Hollywood Mummy. I originally reviewed this book in 2018. I'll put that review at the end of this video. So you get 2 reviews for the price of 1. So this book makes a lot more sense now that I've read the first 5 books in the series, because this book focuses on Sammy's mom. And we haven't really seen Sammy's mom. Like, we know she does embarrassing commercials in Hollywood, and she really abandons Sammy with her grandma. You really feel that heavily in this book. And I hate to say it, but Sammy's mom is kind of a terrible person, especially here, because she's so vapid and shallow, and all she cares about is becoming an actress. That's really all she cares about. So she's, by the way, I've got an Emmy. Figured because this was a Hollywood book, I might as well show off my Emmy. You know, hey. An Emmy, woo! So she would probably cut off her right arm in order to have one of these little statuettes. Like, Sammy's mom is lying about who she is. So she's lying about her name. And that's something that just keeps going throughout the entire book. She's not Lana Keyes. She is now Dominique Windsor. And she's 25 years old, so Sammy can't be her daughter. Sammy is her niece. Yeah. Maybe that's why Donald Duck has nephews. Yeah, maybe that's why he's calling them his nephews instead of his kids. That's, Mickey Mouse has nephews too. But enough about cartoon characters. Although Sammy's mom is sort of like a cartoon. It really hurt to see Sammy's mom just be so mean to Sammy and just trying to deny the fact that Sammy exists. And, like, she even makes mean references to her past. She's like, yeah, love, where did that get me? Referring to the fact that she is a single mother with Sammy. And that's really, really mean to say to Sammy. By the way, I never wanted you to be born. You ruined my life. Gosh, it was really terrible. I really didn't like seeing Sammy's mom in this book, but on the other hand, I did like some of Sammy's snarky comments, because Sammy refuses to call her Dominique. Sammy keeps calling her mom, and really has some really mean comments. Marissa's there too. Has Marissa always been such a girly girl in this series? I'm not sure, because it feels like Nancy Drew and Bess, Nancy Drew and her best friend Bess. That's sort of what they feel like in this book. Oh my gosh, Sammy is so awesome in this book. Like, she's totally fine with breaking into places and doing all this dangerous stuff, and then picking the lock of the door. And everybody's like, how do you know that? And she's like, well, doesn't everyone know how to do that? No, Sammy, they don't. And she's like, well, I should call the police, but I can't call the police now because I'm planning on breaking and entering into Max's office. So that was a funny line at the end of the chapter. So, when people say Sammy Keyes is the new Nancy Drew, that's the sort of stuff they're talking about, because she is brave and fearless in pursuit of the mystery. But in this case, it's less she wants to solve a mystery and more it's really, really personal for her. Because the mystery is, she goes to Hollywood to meet her mom. Oh, another thing, they've got some dirty stuff in this book. I know they had that, like, in the last book with drug dealers and stuff like that, but this one, there's a guy who is urinating in a plastic bag, and then women of a certain profession. We actually go to the place where they do their business, and I don't know, that seemed a little not... Oh, ouch, jeez, these things hurt. Well, it seems not very child-friendly. I imagine that, middle schoolers wouldn't pick up on some of the implications, but still, it wasn't... that's just a minor thing, but I thought I'd point it out. So anyway, they meet Sammy's mom in Hollywood. Mom is not expecting them, by the way. So mom basically works at I think it's a casting agency, but they also let the people live there. Max is the person who runs this place. Max Mueller, he's an older guy. He lets all these people live there, but in exchange, and he is their agent, but in exchange, he takes a really hefty cut for like 8 years, just ironclad contracts. That's basically, these are like, the book doesn't really go into how like predatory these things are, but Sammy knows it's terrible. I've got to find my mom's contract and just destroy it. And that's something which takes a surprisingly large amount of the story. I thought Sammy would be focusing on the murder mystery, but she is kind of focused on her mom and getting her mom out of her contract. Did I say murder mystery? Yes, there's a murder mystery. Okay, so they spend the night at the place and someone is murdered. It's LaBrandy, who Mom was competing with. Mom and LaBrandy were competing with a part on a soap opera, trying to play Jewel the Amnesiac, and that was actually kind of funny. The scene towards the end when Sammy and her mom were like practicing lines for the soap opera, I thought that was kind of funny. I don't think it matched with the rest of the ending, but I'll get to that in a moment. So LaBrandy's murdered, and Mom and LaBrandy switched rooms. And so, like, I'd say like a third to halfway through, Sammy realizes, wait a minute, what the culprit was trying to kill Mom, not LaBrandy. Oh, and Max just proposed to Mom, or at least he's trying to propose to Mom. It's very obvious that Max wants to marry her, even though he's like in his 60s and he thinks she's 25. And he's really creepy. He's got like this creepy shrine to his dead wife, Claire. And his sister, Inga, is the Hollywood mummy. She's dressed up like a mummy with bandages, and she's really mean and nasty. And a good part of the book is, you know, she's a semi-villain trying to chase after Sammy, because you know Sammy's trying to break into Max's room. And so she's sort of a guard and protecting it and making sure Sammy can't go in. So Sammy has a couple of things with that storyline. She discovers that Max has a secret room in his office, but he's always wearing the key. So part one is her stealing the key, and then she escapes by jumping down the laundry chute. And part two is her breaking out of her room, because Inga's on guard outside. She breaks out of her room, and then she has to dump like her mattresses on the ground and make a rope, and that was interesting. I kind of like that scene. But it's really creepy when we see the inside of this guy's office, because he's got a secret hidden shrine to his wife. And like, we knew he had a bunch of stuff from his wife, but this is really creepy and is Egyptian themed. So he's got a coffin with her dead body inside, a sarcophagus with her mummy. Ugh, creepy. Okay, going back a little bit, there are two like mini mysteries. Figuring out the prime suspect at first seems to be Opal, who has jewels. Stole valuable jewels, maybe. So Sammy manages to track down the jewels, gets them from the pawn shop where they were pawned before meeting the woman who tried to pawn them, and just a coincidence that she like stole the jewels and ran out of the building that night. Just sort of a coincidence. I'm not sure if it even was that night. Maybe it'd been a week earlier. But yeah. So, I mean, that's sort of a mini mystery. It's like, okay, we found this jewel in the room of the victim. Maybe that has to do with the murder. But Opal is just so completely shocked when she hears about the killing that we know she's innocent, even though everybody else thinks she's guilty. There is a character who is said to be a rabbit, like Tammy, the twitchy rabbit. I don't think she lived up to her full potential. I don't think she was tied closely enough to the plot to make sense. So she's just a red herring character. The other sort of mystery, which Sammy solves rather quickly, is her friend Hallie. So she kind of makes friends with this, I guess, college-age girl named Hallie. She's the one who's most close in age to Sammy and Marissa anyway. And she realizes that Hallie is actually Max's secret daughter. Max had a daughter with the head maid, and that's really just a scumbag thing, is to not tell his daughter that they're related, while forcing her to work as his servant. That was really awful of him. And Hallie was interesting. She's kind of brash and angry. And it really ties into, these themes about honesty and hiding who you are. Because Max was hiding Hallie's identity. And then Sammy's trying to cover for the fact that her mom is actually her mom. And there's kind of this rough scene where her mom gets really mad at Sammy for spilling her secret. Mom doesn't care about the murder mystery that somebody tried to kill her. Mom just cares that somebody might find out she's older than 25. And just, oh. But yeah, you could definitely do like a literary analysis of this text on themes of just honesty, how you present yourself. And those are things that just are important for mysteries in general, because generally people lie and deceive in mysteries, and there's a lot of lies and deception here, but it ties into appearances. Everybody only cares about appearances in this particular book. All right, so really creepy ending where Sammy realizes that Max thinks her mom is the reincarnation of his dead wife Claire, because they're from the same town, and the day she died is the fake birth date on Mom's new driver's license. And I was keeping an eye out for that when I read this book, and the clues are pretty subtle and well woven into the story. As always, the author does a great job of tying in subtle clues. So the ending was that they have to rush to the place where Max is trying to propose to Mom, and he actually drugs her. And Sammy saves her mom's life with the salt and coffee trick. And I had never heard of that before. And we have the exact same conversation. People are like, oh, how'd you know about the salt and coffee trick? And she's like, doesn't everyone know about it? And I was like, I'd never heard of that before. I had no idea what she was doing. I've never heard of it anywhere else. So, but then we have this really strong scene at the end with Sammy and her mother like breaks down her barriers and is finally real for a moment. And she's like, maybe I could just give up this terrible Hollywood life. Like, maybe I could just go back to being Sammy's mom. And even though it kills Sammy to do it, she says, no, Mom, you're so close to being a soap star. Just go ahead and do the audition, okay? And the audition goes great. So maybe Mom will get the job, maybe she won't. Interesting to see Sammy's mom for the first time. Now I'm wondering who Sammy's dad is, because isn't that the only mystery in this series that hasn't been resolved yet? I can only think of two options, because we only know like two older men who are regular characters. That's Hudson and Officer Borsch. And if one of them is Sammy's father, that would be absolutely wild, wouldn't it? If Officer Borsch was really Sammy's dad the whole time, and he didn't know it, neither did she. I believe that's how the series is going to end, with the final book of Sammy solving the mystery of who her father is, which will be a very deeply personal mystery, I'm sure. So overall, very strong mystery, good for the series, very funny. I did read my previous review, the one I wrote 5 years ago, and I didn't like the scenes where Sammy gets kind of confused and overly excited, which happens, it does happen multiple times, where Sammy's like, and that just keeps, the equivalent of that keeps going on for like a page or so. That was kind of annoying, and they always seem to herald just an abrupt left-hand turn in the mystery or the narrative. But other than that, yeah, it was a pretty good mystery. It had a bunch of twists and mini mysteries and some good themes. I really felt uncomfortable with a lot of the stuff with Sammy's mom, because Sammy's mom was just such a terrible person, and really hurts. It feels like it hurts me personally as a reader to see Sammy's mom be so awful. Gosh. So my original score was a 7 out of 10. I'll stick with that, 7 out of 10. Maybe 8 out of 10. It's good book, good book. So 7 or 8 out of 10, 4 stars out of 5, that sort of thing. Yeah, dramatic mystery, all sorts of stuff. So that's my review. And now I'm going to play my original review, which I did in 2018. Bye.
13-year-old Sammy and her friend Marissa are going to Hollywood for the weekend. They arrive at a bus stop filled with drug addicts, prostitutes, and drunks who publicly urinate. This is supposed to be a children's book, right? That cute cartoon mummy is telling me this isn't a book where that sort of thing happens.
Argo Funk Book Review, Argo Funk Book Review.
This review was commissioned by Patreon. Patreon, please give me your money. The story is that Sammy's mother, Lana, ran away to become an actress. She changed her name, she never contacts her family, and apparently she's told everyone she doesn't even have a daughter. So Sammy is coming to knock some sense into her. Mom is living at an actress house run by Max Mueller. Free room and board, stay as long as you like, but he gets 50% of everything you make for the next 10 years. That's a pretty rough offer. Mom ends up being a horrible person. She yells at the girls, she doesn't notice that they're hungry, and she hides them in her sweet mate's bedroom for the night. That way no one will see them or talk to them. Multiple times, Mom orders them to call her by her stage name, Dominique Windsor. She wants everybody to think she's only 25, which is why she's pretending she doesn't have a daughter. Mom is a little stressed out right now because Max just proposed to her. She doesn't like him, but he's her landlord and her boss, so this is a bad situation. To make things worse, Max is still obsessed with his dead wife, Claire. He has all of Claire's old things in his office, and he even called Mom Claire when he proposed. It's not good. Mom needs a way out of this bad situation. You know, Mom should tell Max that Sammy is her daughter. That would solve both problems at the same time. But I guess that would be too simple. Mom is in final callbacks for a soap opera. The auditions have come down to 2 people, Mom and her sweet mate, LaBrandy. Sammy hears a loud noise coming from LaBrandy's room at 3:30, and LaBrandy is found murdered the next morning. Mom orders Sammy not to tell anybody about the noise, because why would a suspicious noise at the scene of a murder be important? I mean, seriously. We meet some of the other residents, like nervous Tammy, Rena the cook, Hallie the maid, and Max's scary sister Inga. Inga is the Hollywood mummy, because she had botched plastic surgery and now her face is covered with bandages. Someone stole a set of valuable jewels from Max. Sammy finds them hidden in the victim's sock drawer, along with a phone number for a curio shop. She goes to the shop, where they pressure the man into returning the jewels. Along the way, they learn that Hallie is secretly Max's daughter. The main suspect is LaBrandy's old roommate, Opal, who was kicked out of the house recently. They visit Opal at a strip club, and again, is this a children's book? This is not appropriate reading material for second graders. Opal admits that she stole the jewels, but she didn't commit the murder. Sammy realizes her mother was the killer's intended victim, since her mother looks like LaBrandy and she switched rooms with LaBrandy at the last minute. Mom gets mad at Sammy for investigating the crimes. Gee, sorry I tried to prove your innocence, Mom. Sammy decides to explore the locked room, which is part of Max's office. She breaks into his suite and steals his keys. Inga almost captures her, but she escapes by sliding down the laundry chute. They have a funeral service for LaBrandy, where Max says a lot of mumbo-jumbo about reincarnation and spirits. Mom and Max leave for a fancy dinner date. Sammy figures this is the perfect time to search his office, but Inga shows up with a pitchfork and refuses to let Sammy leave her room. Yeah, that's not going to stop our heroes. Sammy and Marissa escape through the window. Inside Max's secret room, they discover he's secretly dying from cancer. Also, he has a life-size sarcophagus with Claire's mummy inside. Gross. Creepy. Sammy realizes Max thinks her mother is Claire reincarnated. Since he's dying, he wants to kill her. That way they die at the same time and their souls can always be together. Again, gross. Creepy. They rush to the restaurant where Max just poisoned himself and Mom. Sammy force-feeds Mom coffee and salt until she throws up the poison. We get a nice ending where Mom apologizes for being awful. She offers to move back home so they can be a family again, but Sammy says, "No! You don't have to go home! You live your dream of being a replacement actress on a soap opera! Who cares about talking to your child more than once a year?" They rehearse lines together, and Sammy goes back home to live with Grandma. The end. Post-book follow-up. I had a hard time getting into this book, mainly because none of the backstory gets explained until page 18. I assume everything makes sense if you've read the other Sammy Keyes books, but I haven't, so I had no idea who these characters were or what was going on. All I knew was that two girls were going to a really disgusting part of Hollywood for unknown reasons. I thought the adult content was a little jarring and out of place, but it ends up working well. The filthy Hollywood setting reflects the book's themes about deception and pretending to be something you're not. Lies and deception work perfectly in a mystery book. Still, this is a children's series. You could have explored these themes and the dirty underside of Hollywood without bringing in prostitutes and strip clubs. The book is a little disjointed at times. Two examples come to mind. Number 1, chapter 16, Sammy and her mom are having a fight about Max. Sammy runs away mid-conversation to look at Max's window, and that starts the whole breaking into Max's office subplot. That was a badly done transition, which totally threw me off. I had no idea what was going on. 2, there's a detective in this book. He arrives at the house. He looks similar to a police officer that Sammy knows from home. She goes out of her way to avoid being seen by him, and he gets mentioned a couple of times after that, but nothing comes of it. We never see the detective again. He never has any dialogue. I don't know why the book made a minor deal over this character who only appears the once. There's also the fact that the narrative follows Sammy's emotions. For example, when she's scared, she uses short sentences. Nice little touch. The downside is that the narrative gets disjointed whenever she's confused or so upset she can barely think straight. That happens multiple times, and it kind of feeds into the problem of the book being a little disjointed at points. Overall, I don't know how to feel about this book. I had a hard time getting into it, and there are problems that I pointed out. But on the plus side, the mystery is well done, all the clues are there, and it's really creepy too. I wouldn't be opposed to reading another Sammy Keyes book, but I'm not going to search one out. I give Sammy Keyes and the Hollywood Mummy a 7 out of 10.